مصاحبه اختصاصی سیمای آزادی با فرهوفشتاد، نخست وزیر بلژیک 1999 تا 2008. فرهوفشتاد: سپاه پاسداران ستون فقرات آخوندها است. اگر به ستون فقرات این رژیم حمله نکنید، تغییری حاصل نمی شود.
بینندگان عزیز سیمای آزادی، یک گفتگو داریم با آقای فرهوفشتاد، نخست وزیر پیشین بلژیک و از سیاستمداران برجسته اروپایی در مورد سیاستی که اتحادیه اروپا و کشورهای اروپایی باید در قبال رژیم ایران اتخاذ کنند. Welcome, Mr. Farhooshtad. Very glad to have you with us in this interview with Simay Azadi, Iran National Television. I would like you to explain us, because I've heard you talk about the policy of the EU towards the Iranian regime. How was this policy until now, and what should it be?
Yeah, the policy until now was a policy or a strategy of appeasement. Looking to Iran and saying, look, maybe there is a lot of resistance, but there is no alternative for the monarch regime of today. And the official position of most European countries and the European Union was to say, look, we have to do business with the monarch regime. We have to find an agreement on the nuclear weapon production or the threat of nuclear weapons of Iran. And okay, yeah, the rest is collateral damage. But that is what is the actual. And what needs to be done is we need completely to reverse that strategy, and we need to recognize that there is an alternative for a democratic alternative for Iran, and the fact that people already since 2009 so many times came in the streets, started to protest, is a proof of the will of the Iranian people for a democratic change. And what needs to be done is that the European Union, like the United States of America, start what I call a structural dialogue with the democratic opposition and with the organized resistance to prepare a change in Iran. Certainly in this time, where we see this whole turmoil in the Middle East, and that is produced by the monarch regime. So if you want also a peaceful and stable Middle East, there needs to be a change in Iran. Otherwise, there will never be peace and stability in the region.
What do you think about the program and the plan of the opposition, of this resistance, of the Iranian resistance?
We have the 10-point plan of Mr. Yaravi, but it's clear that all the points that are in that plan are necessary for the future. So there is only an alternative. If this alternative is a democratic alternative, respect of the rule of law, equality between men and women, freedom of religion. And I think all these points, when I'm talking with people from Iran or from the diaspora of Iran, because there are many people living abroad, they all want that. I have never seen such more unity in the wish of a country like in Iran, of the people of Iran.
You have called for the IRGC to be listed on the Europeans terrorism list, and I remember your debate with the High Representative of the European Union. Yes. Why do you think it's an important step to take for the EU?
It's an important step because that is mainly the stronghold of the monarchs. They use it as a weapon of terror, so executions, death penalties, and done by the so-called Revolutionary Guard. That's the backbone of the monarch regime. And if you don't attack the backbone of the regime, it will never change. That's simply the reason. They are the backbone. They are those who are responsible for that daily violence in Iran.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farhooshtad, for being with us and for this interview. Thank you.
بخشی از سخنرانی گی فرهوفشتاد در کنفرانس راه حل بحران ایران و نقش آلترناتیو دموکراتیک، پاریس، 17 آذر 1403.
Thank you. As I said already a few times when I came here to your organization, there is also a need for a change in the attitude of the outside world. Things in Iran will not change if the West, especially Europe and the US, continue with their policy of appeasement towards the Iranian regime of today. It's a policy and a strategy of appeasement in which some political leaders in the West think that they can make deals with the Iranian monarch regime. For example, a deal on the non-making of nuclear bombs. Who can believe their word that if we make an agreement like that, this will not happen? There is no reason for appeasement until there are executions of that magnitude, until there is no free and democratic Iran, there is no reason for an appeasement policy towards Iran. And therefore, in the European Parliament, we are not in agreement about almost nothing. But about one thing we were in agreement, that was the bad strategy of the current leadership, the previous leadership, and the High Representative towards Iran and the appeasement policy that we want to follow. And we think that 4 things need to change. A new strategy needs to be established by the European leadership. And the Bundestag can play, I think, an important role in that. The first is that immediately we tackle the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard, as a terrorist organization, what is still not happened until today. The second part of this strategy needs to be to target with sanctions directly the Iranian oil and banking industry, who is in fact the backbone of the regime today, who creates the income, the revenue for Iran to continue their oppressive regime. The third is that we need to increase the personal sanctions on those people responsible in the Iranian regime. I know today there are a number of sanctions. I got a long discussion with Borrell about it. In total, 250 people. What we are talking about, 200 or 250 people. It needs all the thousands and thousands of people who are in the repressive regime in Iran, who needs to be put under personal sanctions immediately. And finally, we need to recognize, and that is what the West is not doing, neither Europe, neither the US today, that there is a viable alternative, democratic alternative in Iran, and there is a need for a structural dialogue with that alternative of Iran. It is not true. It is not true that if we don't recognize we have no appeasement strategy towards of Iran, that there will be turmoil in the Middle East. No, the Middle East is in turmoil because of Iran and the Mollah regime. And so that needs to change. Also, a structural dialogue, a recognition that there is another future possible in Iran, and not the continuation of the regime of the Mollahs. And I think that standing with the Iranian people, ladies and gentlemen, and standing with the organized resistance in Iran has become today not a political choice, but a moral imperative today. A moral imperative and also an absolute necessity to restore the balance and the peace, equity in a turmoil region as the Middle East. And that can happen faster than we think. Thank you.